All right. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. Woo! Let me just say, welcome to Fatherhood Think Tank. Um, tonight's show is probably going to be one that it's going to be pretty personal to me tonight. But I'm hoping that these fathers around can um, shed light on the conversation. We can talk about this in a way that not only that we in the room can learn, but people outside who may be watching the Fatherhood Think Tank can learn. That's why we have the show, the Fatherhood Think Tank, the 60 to 90 minutes of fatherhoods, thinking, talking, breathing about fatherhood and how it represents us and how we represent it. I'd just like to welcome everybody here tonight to the Fatherhood Think Tank. And I'm going to let my co-fathers um, get started introducing themselves, and then we'll go into our topic tonight. The topic is the reason why I am a deadbeat dad is that, and that people can fill in any answers or what they feel at the end of that. So, gentlemen, good night and welcome.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Ed Tenney. I'm a father of three grown adult children, ages 31 to 37. I have two grandbabies, and I have one grandbaby on the way. Looking forward to that, and good to be here.
I'm sorry. Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Lanny Lightborn. I'm a father to a tribe of seven young adults, three young women, four young men, one granddaughter, one grandson, and it's always a pleasure to be here.
Okay, great, guys. I see we had some other people. They must have didn't know the format, but I will say this to you: if you're out there, you're watching. Um, Listen, don't hesitate to link onto the link, come into the room. Your words, your vision, your view, um, even your perception will be beneficial to this conversation. Especially tonight. I mean, even tonight, I'm gonna, you know, we've been. I know that Rohan has been saying this, but I want to even say, hey, if there are mothers or women out there, mainly mothers, people who are closer to mothers, who are interested in joining us, maybe having some comments, having some conversation, or having some things. Hey, don't shy away. It's not a platform where we degrade or with disrespect or not stay on the course of what we're kind of talking about. This is a place we want everybody to have a voice, so we can get to an understanding of this difficult travel of fatherhood, if it's good, bad, or ugly. I think that is one of the things that we definitely want people to be able to recognize and identify that it is something that is not as simple as I think society has kind of made it. And if we're not noticing that and seeing that, the media is kind of showing us that every day, how difficult fatherhood can be for fathers. So just throwing it out there. So, guys, it's how do I say it's decent that it's you two guys that's here tonight. Um, uh, Maybe two guys who may at some point over this platform and through our personal relationships have a pretty good I can have some kind of idea of who I am, the kind of person I am, at least know me in some aspects. Maybe you might not know me all the way. Maybe you might, maybe know me some. Maybe you know what just I present. Maybe just know, uh, what you may have think about me in reference to that. But one thing that I am very adamant about, and I've been adamant about since I was thrusted to become a father, was fatherhood. It became a thing that, for me, that was just a novelty that I was working in as a therapist, because I was looking for a medium to help fathers not get caught up into domestic violence. So interesting dynamics. To the larger majority of domestic uh, fathers, domestic perpetrators, normally in many cases had, you would see the statistics kind of show a large majority of them being, um, I won't say, and I want to be very clear with my words, because working in the field is important that you're very clear, that have been alleged based on the relational difference in that relationship, that there are men and fathers who have been alleged to be abusers. Um, Not to say they're not men who are abusers or women who are abusers, but a lot of times when it gets into this system, um, if you thought about somebody being abused, and you can throw a blanket case and you hear, oh, this person was abused. You didn't say what the gender, what the sex was. You would figure that it was a woman being abused by a man. I mean, you can agree to disagree, but that the statistics usually will show that. But knowing, understanding that a lot of the time the relationships are having conflict and people don't know how to resolve the conflict, it can become physical. Physical relationships that are not about power and control, in many instances, don't fit the qualifications of domestic violence. It may, legally wise, the police will come and you two were fighting. That's domestic violence, but technically, clinically, um, without the power and control aspect, we don't really see that. And so, again, that's where I came from, domestic violence, to come into the field, working and becoming a father, and then working in fatherhood, and it becoming something I've been doing now for 12 years. So, and I can mark the time of me working in fatherhood based on, I can mark the time of my child. Um, so it is it's not something that I was doing before. It's something and like when you were there at the at my entrance into this, and it wasn't I wasn't, I was there to help fathers kind of work out their men issues, not to get caught up in disputes with mothers that ultimately end them in jail, and then eventually not even seeing their kids at all. So that was really a big place of where I was in that. So um, I'm a very, and if you know me, people know me. If you don't, I'm not a secretive person. I'm probably one of the most transparent people that there is. I don't really harbor on things, because I think that your transparency can be a light for somebody else. Right? It can be even your mistakes, the things that you have made done, can be assistance to where someone else can. And I can tell you right now that my own personal fatherhood experience has has not been uh, has not for me been the one that I wanted. So I can say that. And probably if it wasn't for, let's just even put this in context, if it wasn't for investing myself in working in fatherhood and seeing other fathers and really seeing fathers who way more bad down than myself, right? With almost to a point of not having any power to what can happen and what can't happen. Um, I begin to, and I can begin to say, hey, there is a lot of emotionality that comes with that. A lot of things you have to be careful and involved. So I've never been one to like, oh well, if you ask me a question, I'll tell you the facts. You might not like them, you may disagree with them, but they are my facts, and they're not slanted in any kind of way. I try to tell things the way it is because I've learned a long time ago, it's harder to keep up some lie than it is just to tell the truth. The truth will set you free, no matter what happens. Sometimes the truth will lock you up in some cases. So you have to be mindful how to operate. So this topic tonight is one coming directly in response to something that occurred, um, um, that I want to have a conversation about with the fathers and the men that I know, to hear their words and hear what their thoughts are, and how it plays out. So if we just indulge us tonight in this conversation, and again, welcome any, I'm saying I'm welcoming anybody who may want to, speak on this, to come on to the platform. Let's have that conversation. Let's get an understanding about what we understand this to be. So first question for you guys tonight, and before I would like, as much as possible, is how would you define, when you as a man and as a father, how would you define what a deadbeat dad is? How would you come to, um, and two parts. How would you define it? And who do you think is the definer of a man or father being a deadbeat dad? I know that's a lot I know that's almost two hoagie sandwiches, extra meat and cheese, but I know you guys you're hefty guys, you can eat.
So I guess before I would try and come up with an answer to that is there any data or statistical data that shows I'm getting feedback. I wonder if that's me. But
that was me.
Okay.
I hit the big screen.
I would consider a deadbeat dad one who literally abdicates their responsibility, just almost forgets that they fathered a child. That would be my definition. But I would love to see if there's any data that would show fathers or deadbeat dads who are defined deadbeat dads, not because of an abdication of their responsibility, but because of a narrative that may have been driven by their partner. It would be nice because it seems like the overall title of deadbeat dad assumes that there is an abdication of responsibility by the father. And I know that's not the case. It would just be interesting to know if it's 50-50, 75-25. Do you have any data with regards to that? Because I would think that there would be more quote unquote deadbeat dads that are created by a narrative as opposed to dads who literally abdicated their responsibility.
No, it's for me. I'm sitting here because I'm looking at the title, but the term deadbeat dad. And so now I have to look at the science of it, right? And so the science tells me, how do you derive at an intelligence or create intelligence out of something that's an insult, right? Because it's a clear indication that the terminology is more of an insult than it is an intelligence to describe a particular thing with malice, right? So I like sounding like I'm on TV or some kind of court show. I watch a lot of court shows, but yeah, it's an insult. Again, It's not an intelligence. It's an insult that tries to describe or try to describe an insult with intelligence, or try to apply intelligence to an insult with malice. And so when that happens, um, there's nothing going to be rational about it, because you can't get intelligence from the insult. You're not going to have a rational conversation. You're getting ready to have an argument, and at best a debate. And so, I mean, and it's no different than calling a woman the B word or something like that. And so when you use a derogatory term that defines a male in any fashion or form, it's not acceptable, and shouldn't be not be no more acceptable than it is using a derogatory term to describe a woman. And so I think we're very selective in our socialization of people. It's more acceptable to be insulting towards a man who may be disenfranchised. So you can be a disenfranchised dad, but we still give a license for people to use a derogatory term to define a disenfranchised dad as a deadbeat dad, and that should be unacceptable as it is to describe a woman as the B words or whatever. So that's one thing. And if we're going to be just or rational across the board, then we should always be that in season and out of season. And so when we start to look at the fact that the reason why I am a deadbeat dad, it's not so much you're not a deadbeat dad, because you have to take that. First of all, you got to read what they call it when something is broken. You have to refurbish that whole narrative, and you got to correct people, because I can't make something out of nothing. To say that you're a deadbeat dad is to say you're nothing. And how do I make something out of nothing if the terminology is nothing? But if I start to build something, I'm gonna have to change that whole narrative. I have to change that whole title and say, no, you're not a deadbeat dad. You're a disenfranchised dad, and here's why. Which is back to your topic. So if I had to reframe this, I would have to say the reason I am a disenfranchised dad, and then I can explain why. Because then I can start to say, well, you may have maternal and paternal and maternal biases and injustices that's going on when it comes to we call it custody, but they may call it child sharing or time sharing, depends on what state you're in. And so now the science I can actually use, back to your point, Tini, I can actually look for the research right now, or even build the research in this conversation to say, okay, this is why you are a disenfranchised dad. I got the science for that. But I don't have no science for why you're a deadbeat dad, because there's no science for an insult, or there's no intelligence in insults. You can't draw intelligence out of an insult. That's why you can't really have an equitable conversation around the term deadbeat, because there's really no such thing as a deadbeat dad, but there are disenfranchised dads that we can add all kind of science to. So I'm gonna leave it right there, and then we can go further later on.
So I see young, he's probably in the audience. I see a young guy in there. I don't know if he wants to introduce himself. If not, he might just came in the room just to listen to the conversation, and we welcome that as well. Let me first answer your question. I think, Ed, there is all types of statistics, right? The understanding that there's statistics that 18.2 million children, that's 1 in 4 in the United States, live without a father, right? But that here, and then about 40% of those children not seeing their father in the past year, with 70 to 80% custodial mothers receiving some child support. Over 2 million fathers are considered absent fathers. Absent is strongly correlated with high poverty, behavior issues, and criminal rates. So that's the kind of statistic that you're looking at that you might get. But I'm going to keep it real. I think the idea of a deadbeat dad is what I could call a criticism that is subjective. So someone could, because who is going to make this definition statistically? Like and I work in statistics. And one thing I looked at is, in my own doctoral thesis, that became a big part. It came about fatherhood, right? Initially, it was supposed to be about helping men understand power and control, and it went to being like finding strength to help fathers, strength technique to work with fathers, um, based on the kind of therapist they may be involved with, and so it makes it very and what Lightborn is really making a strong point to is you will not find someone use the word deadbeat dad and as a way to in any way empower the person that they're talking to, because it's almost like if I say you're a deadbeat, what are you trying to do to look for a solution to that? Because once you insult somebody, the idea of saying that they're this, or trying to make it public knowledge to other people who may not know that they are this thing, right? Are trying to attack their platforms, or trying to tell people that who may think don't know them these things, ultimately then sets in a tone of, it for me, it always puts in a question of the person saying it. Why are you saying it? Because there's another thing you could say. I would want you to be a more, can you become a more involved? And how can you become a more involved father? Instead of saying you're a deadbeat, because it's almost like a condition. If you tell me I'm a deadbeat, oh, I'm gonna be a deadbeat. You tell me I'm dumb, I'll be dumb. You tell me, because guess what? At this point, you insulted me, so I'm gonna be all of that. Whereas if you really are trying to resolve the issue, that we always say, in the best interest of the child, the information or the things coming out are what you may be approaching the father or the mother about should be about reconciliation with the child. But a lot of times I think it doesn't happen because it's not the reconciliation of the child that's sometimes the problem. It's the reconciliation of the parents.
Ron,
So,
you know what I was thinking about before you introduce Johnny A. Gaspar, our resident extraordinaire attorney at law, Mr. Jag himself. I'm gonna get to you in a minute, Jag.
Thank you.
Before I lose my train of thought, just getting excited to see you, and I see Mosky on here, so I definitely want you guys to introduce yourself so I can definitely hear what you guys have to say and know who you are. But to your point, Ron, I mean, I'm just going to be a basic man right now. There's a certain thing terminology we used to use in the guide code that said those are fighting words. You understand? And that never changes in our DNA. And so when you use fighting words, you should prepare for a fight. And this is where you start to see the battle between mothers and fathers over the child, because we use fighting words. I think which sounds like a really good terminology. Those are fighting words. And when it comes to understand what those fighting words are, and deadbeat happens to be one of them, because you're trying to reduce a person's parenting to the lowest common denominator, particularly when it comes to a man or a woman, but specifically when it comes to men, because the terminology is prevalent with men than it is with women. And so I'm gonna leave that part right there. Gaspar, please introduce yourself, and then let Marquise come behind you.
Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, viewers. Brother Johnny Gaspard, father of two grown children that's still in my pocket, but God is good. They're doing well, and I am grateful to be here amongst these intelligent, sharp-minded men to continue to sharpen my iron as well. So grateful to be here. And the topic, when I saw the title, I really wanted to get here a little earlier on so I could find out what y'all talking about, how this gonna make sense. Because I'm like, why are we talking about deadbeat dad? Cuz what's the rationale that we're giving? So I know I missed a few things. I was on another Zoom, so I'm gonna listen up a little bit, but I definitely appreciate being here amongst you gentlemen as usual. Brother Marquise.
Me, I'm sorry. I'm at work, whatever. I work for Ally down at Temple campus. I'm listening. I'm just trying to be professional for my job.
We got
And
you,
that's
bro.
good. We got you. Thank you for joining us, Marcus. Um, but I definitely know that young brother definitely want to hear some of this knowledge because I know that's the young man I've known for a while from Fort Lauderdale all the way here to Philadelphia. So he's close to me in many ways. And he is a father. Um, so I understand. And listen, this is a perfect example when you asked the question earlier, Tinny, you know, some of the misconceptions we have in reference to like people want to make this idea of what a deadbeat looks like. And if there is a such thing of a deadbeat, one of the first misconceptions is this idea of a deadbeat being non-residential is equivalent to absent. And what that says is living apart from the child does not mean that the child's father is absent. And many non-consensual, non-custodial fathers remain active, involved in the children's life as long as they can be, right? Because that's where the problem comes is, they could be there just like residential fathers, right? That you will hear somebody say, "Oh, only absent fathers are deadbeat dads," right? But when we look at this in a bigger spectrum as fatherhood, and we really look at all types of fathers working all atmospheres, not just the ones that we have, that have designated to be negative and bad because someone told us they are. We can look at residential fathers who can have some of the same defining characteristics of being a deadbeat, not being engaged, not be like they may bring home the bacon, but that's all they do. They have no involvement with their children other than the financial support they give, not to their children, but to the family. And there's a major issue in that. Like I live in the home, but I don't do anything with my kids because I'm busy working. Now, and here's the second part of the misconception a lot of times that reason for non-payment, and what does non-payment look like, and why does non-payment become this important thing that is a representation of a deadbeat? Because in addition, financial difficulties, some non-consensual parents cite a lack of visitation rights, no accountability for how money is spent as a reason for non-payment, rather than the refusal to support the child. I've dealt with enough people who felt as if they were together with the mother, they would be struggling the same way that they struggle apart, and the mother and the father would have to manage the lifestyle that they have, with the child, the way it operates. So when you're looking at those kind of things, that changes some of this, what this deadbeat idea looks like, or who this person is, or how it operates. I think that when we look at it, a lot of times, there's a lot of deadbeat dads, right, who pay child support, and people say, well, they pay child support because it was forced. Well, if it was about financial and now they pay on child support, are they still a deadbeat? Do they have to engage with the kid, even though, because custodial fathers who live in the house don't engage with their kids, they just provide money. And again, I'm just to answer your some of the statistics and how it could be so subjective. This is a very subjective thing, not objective, but very subjective, based on personal feelings, how people perceive it, and also how these relationships are developed and how the child is. Listen, shameless plug as always. I came. I cited this word in my dissertation, non-consensual fatherhood. And people can disagree on what it doesn't matter, but the research that I did in that shown that you will have a better outcome of a father who is consensual to fatherhood than one who is non-consensual, because fathers who consent to father, just like a woman would consent to sex, you have a more enjoyable sexual experience with them than one who doesn't consent. I'm putting that two things together.
Yeah.
I'm putting it together because what I hear so often in the rebuttal of non-consensual fatherhood is that, oh, you had sex with her, so you should have known a baby was going to come. I'm just putting those two things together.
Ron, I heard your analogy, but yeah, nah, bro.
But I couldn't maintain my composure for that one too. But I know what he meant. I know what he meant though. You feel me?
Correct,
Let's not lose track of thought.
We definitely all understood what you meant by that. For sure, we were trying to get your point across. But yeah, but I would say, coming back to the non-consensual, when I sit down and deadbeat, when we say that Anthony Edwards, who said, "I'm gonna pay all my child support up front for 18 years," the basketball player plays for the Minnesota Timberwolves, apparently had a child with one of these social media influencer chicks, and she came at him for the child support, and he asked the judge because he told her he didn't want the child, much like what Ron said regarding being non-consensual. She went ahead and had the baby anyway. He said, "I'm not going to be involved, but you know what? Here you go." And somehow or another, in Georgia, because this would have never happened in Florida, he somehow was able to negotiate a way where he could pay the child support for 18 years up front, which again, in Florida, that wouldn't have happened. But nonetheless, he did, and supposedly gave $500,000 to the young lady, said, "Don't call me for nothing else. 18 years, I'm done." So now she's back trying to get more money, claiming through the state of California and so on and so forth. But nonetheless, in a scenario like that, is he a deadbeat dad? Because he literally gave her $500,000 and said, "Go on about your business. This for the child. So you can't sit out and take care of the baby. So am I a deadbeat dad?" And as Ron said, from a subjective perspective, a lot of men and women would say, yes, you are, because you're not involved in being a father. But then in the most of the term, in terms of deadbeat, we are referring to a financial. We often hear deadbeat. Most people here think financial. He's not contributing financially. But if he just gave $500,000 to cover the child, is he still a deadbeat? And I guess according to what Ron is saying, and a lot of people's opinion, he would be, because he's not involved doing something. Not Ron saying that, but
listen, I would not say he's a deadbeat because I would not say he's a deadbeat because I respect the rights and consents of men, right? I'm not in the blue pill, red pill, but I will say the only way that we can really respect consent and things for others is respect it for others, right? So if men don't get that done, and again, let me go back to where this is coming from, because I think I have to be very clear, because people will say, well, what are you talking? I'm talking from my original experience of domestic violence, right? So I come from domestic violence. And one thing we learned, one statistics and the studies show us that if men don't feel that domestic violence is something that affects them, they will not solve it for women. In the same idea that if it doesn't matter if you want to have a baby or not, if somebody can have a baby and make you responsible for it, men will begin to at some point turn on that idea. People will say, well, where's my right or my responsibility? You know, so if he told her he didn't want to have, but hey, we don't have a relationship. See, I think this is here lies the part that becomes so problematic in this, because the court system kind of regulates things based through marriage. So if you're married, it's a very clear cut scenario that will happen. In this case of you being non-married, the court automatically puts a bias and says you impregnated this woman, even if you didn't want to impregnate this woman, even if, and so I hate to start getting dark in this, but sometimes when we look at fatalities to women who are pregnant, the larger majority of those fatalities who were not in, who did justify. I'm not saying that's correct, but you can just look very clearly at the statistics. You can look at the foundings. That's across all boards of if this people who are unstable, who don't know how to manage not wanting to have a child, and someone's going to force them to have it and have it regardless if they want to or not, you can begin to see some of these fatalities. And many of those men don't commit suicide. They just murder the women. It's not like different relationship. See, I want to be clear. Sometimes people strike a bunch, every little homicide, femicide, homicide, suicide, bunch it all together in one thing. We have to be very clear that the media gives you just one story, somebody getting killed. But there's a reason for every person to get killed. We might not ever find out, but there's something that we have to really begin to look at, especially when we're looking at the almost what I call, and I'm seeing right now, is the fragileness of men in our society today. I mean, I've never, at this point of how I'm seeing men be as fragile and almost emotionally fragile, that anything can set them over and put them in places to do things that's unspeakable. And it's not about them being evil. See, people want to like, oh, this is evil. And by doing that, you take the human part away from them as men. So they can't have any emotion. They can't, a woman go and kill all her children because she was too frustrated, too hard to do it. Everyone say, oh, that's so, oh, let's feel sorry for her. Oh, I can understand how difficult it is. A man does something, you don't get to see this. A father does. I mean, again, this really goes into some deeper conversations.
No, Ron, and you know what? Here's the for me a caveat, because I always wanted to use that word caveat. But anyway, here's a caveat for me. When you're talking about legislative biases or different things like that, yeah, I would think there is legislative biases. There are advantages on both sides when it comes to being a man versus being a woman. I think both sides use those privileges or those liberties to their advantage when they're at an advantage. I think when it comes to just being in a man-woman relationship, men, we tend to have the advantage because of the availability and the ratio of men and the women. So we tend to be an advantage when it comes to the actual conceiving of a child. And then we become a disadvantage when it comes to becoming a parent. And so where the bias comes in, or the legal bias come in for me, or the disadvantage of men comes in for me, is when men become parents. And you would often hear, and it's a very, very popular political slogan, was a woman's right to choose. And so I think it's always an incomplete statement, because nobody ever asks the question, a woman's right to choose what, right? And if that woman's right, because the answer is that woman's right to choose to be a parent, which is speaking back to your point, Ron. And so that's where the bias coming at, because if a woman has a right to choose to be a parent, so should the man, if justice is going to be equal. And so we never discuss, because the man's voice is never really elevated or raised when it comes to this particular topic, because they think the ultimate parent is nothing but a woman and never a man. Even though they'll throw us a bone in the conversation.
But basically, basically going back to what we have to realize, how this is a circle. Who made that determination that women are the parents? Men. We have some of this stuff has been done in the same instance, like stabbing yourself.
You're saying self-inflicted
in the foot, right? It's because of living in this world where we do have privilege. The privilege of making the determination of what everything happens, right? We determine this is what happened. Women are the ones going to take care of it, this and that. And then we can't move off of that, not even seeing that. Because we don't move off of that, there is going to be injustice done to some of you, same people who have the privilege to say, I got the right to be able to say if this happens or not happen. And that's the slippery slope that people don't want to really recognize.
but it's we never. Leonard, I'm glad you came on the show because I can't wait to hear from you. But again, when we complete that question, when we complete that statement, right? It's not even a question because they don't leave it option. They don't even leave the option open for a man to discuss it. It's just a straight directive. A woman's right to choose. And again, nobody thought to ask the question to choose what. And the question in that, what is to be a parent? I'm like, again, if that is true, because that's what they're saying, a woman's right to choose either to be a parent or not to be a parent. I'm like, okay, so if we're going to be just, then that same courtesy should be extended to men as well, because it takes two to become a parent than it would one. And but anything other than that is going to be biased and unjust. And so that's what I can give your point, to your point, Ron, on when it comes to, would you say, non-consensual fatherhood or whatever the case may be. So I'm not going to say I don't understand that. It's a little weird for me, but I can say that even if it's non-consensual, you still have a certain level of accountability. You understand, when it comes to conceiving a child. And so even if I don't think they're getting you so much on the consent as they are getting you on the accountability of that particular child. But I'm gonna stop right there. Go ahead, let her introduce yourself.
If I may, before he does, I just wanted to say to Lightborn's point about right to choose. The law is not set up for us as men to choose when it comes to a child. It's specifically done because, again, we are not giving birth to anything. You understand? So we don't get the right to choose. That's not a phrase that refers to us, because we could choose to walk away. We could choose to not be involved. But if she chooses to have the child, she's the one that's responsible for taking care of it. So ultimately, her right to choose overrides our right to make a decision or be involved, which is the problem that Ron is advocating for, non-consensual. And I agree 100%, because again, at the end of the day, she has the right to choose whether or not she wants to be a mother in this particular case. But I don't get the right to choose if I don't want to be a father, unless I'm considered the deadbeat dad by walking away. So me making a choice.
Johnny,
Yeah.
Here's the other part. Are trying to make it work out because you're feeling that you need to do that responsibility, right? You need to be responsible, because a large majority of men will give it the old college try, right? They'll give it the old sailor try, only to find out that I can't do it. And it leads to more devastation for their children.
You can't do what? The relationship with her, or be involved with be a father to his child?
No, you try to then say, hey, I'm going to try to do this thing, try to be a co-parent. But if it's not about being a co-parent, listen, it goes to the motive of this child being presented. That's all. It's the motive. Because if the motive is to give you a child and then you just get your child and do whatever you need to do with it, right? That's one thing. If the motive is for you to maintain and still be involved with me, a woman that may not want to be involved with, a person now the accountability. Many men will say, you hear this. I mean, this is I don't have a percentage. I don't have it off the top of my head, but there are large percentage of men. And okay, no, I'll give you a better example. When you ask people, when you're talking to people and you say, hey, and I did this as a therapist to many people. Hey, how old are your children? How long have you been together? And when you start to see that more people have been together in a 2-year window, and if they get married, sometimes they get married, the children, or they get involved with each other, the children that came first.
Oh, okay, got it.
You understand what I'm saying? The children, my child is 12. We've been married. My child is 12. We've been married 10 years.
Gotcha.
So there is this window of time where a lot of men say they're gonna do the right thing, and sometimes it works. if that is the relationship you want to be. But a lot of people don't want, and again, I can understand this too. A lot of women don't want to be walking around here being a single mom with having to raise a kid on their own. I understand that. But I also know that it takes for you the idea of you don't have to raise a kid on your own, but you're not going to get a man to be with you and raise a child if he doesn't want to be with you.
And that's, again, and I 100% agree with you on that, Rob. Because he don't want to be with you. He don't want to be with you. So the problem that I did have, right, and is when then she meets someone who's willing to be that man. All of a sudden, the dude who didn't want to be with her doesn't necessarily, he still don't want to be with her. He just don't want another man raising his child, quote unquote. And because of that aspect of it, he now decides he wants to be around when he wasn't around before, now creating unnecessary antagonistic situations in the house when at some point he didn't even want to be there with the child. He wasn't even trying to do that. But and I say that to you because I guess we're just dealing with people in general, and we could say the good and the bad, and we've talked about the subjectiveness of it. But the one thing I definitely wanted to focus on was that point, like Bourne said, about the father's right to choose. And he doesn't get a right to choose other than the right that he's chosen in the past to leave. And because men in the past have chosen to leave, this is where Lightborn on his feminist tip would say, because men have left children, left women, abandoned them to raise children on their own. When you now start talking about you should have a right to make a decision for her, it's hard for the courts to give you that when oftentimes y'all decision, y'all men's decision is to walk away and leave her on her own, not necessarily be there for the child, even if he doesn't want to be there with her. So because of that situation,
go ahead,
like boy, go ahead.
No, you 100% on it, Johnny. The spirit is flowing up in him because you're leading right to where I'm going, and I'm gonna just keep it short. I'm gonna say it like this: what Ron just has described is we understand friends with benefits, right? But oftentimes the transition happens is when people who could be friends with benefit will end up becoming parents with benefits. And so now it's a totally different dynamic. Here it is something that you guys are used to, right? But then when you put a child in the game, which speaks to everything you just said, Johnny, you go from being friends with benefits because there was no responsibility of being friends with benefits, and now you becoming parents with benefits, where the stakes are higher because you have another living being in there that's going to draw more accountability of emotions and affections and everything that's real and responsible. Maybe it can be mostly from the mother to the child. Sometimes it can also be from the father to the child as well. And so when you start to see something greater to live for, it becomes harder to be parents with benefits than it do with friends with benefits. And parents with benefits are just people simply two parents who still sexing each other, you understand, in between relationships. But I mean, that's another topic within itself. You understand?
Yeah, but I think hold on. But I think that statistics shows, and again, this is all subjective. Every one of the topics everything we said has been subjective to a situation that could be any situation.
Correct. I'm
just responding to the situation because back to Johnny's situation that he described, it could be a legitimate reason that father made a decision to say, "Hey, I wasn't involved," but is that person really being involved with my child? Are they trying? Or is it a game? See, listen. Everything has this strategic chess game that people playing in relationships. And we sometimes try to throw all that out the window and be like, "Oh, everybody's coming with pure motives. It's a pure thing." When it's not pure. Yeah, listen, this man didn't care nothing about the kid, wasn't even really being active until you posting pictures of his child and some other dude that he ain't even met. saying this and that. Yeah, they may get upset. Or they may, guess what? They may say, I don't give, that's good. Now you got a daddy, now you can leave me the hell alone. See, you don't know what the man's response could be because it's all subjective to the people's own experience of how they even got in those situations. And so that what makes this conversation difficult and very hard. I mean, I want to focus on the commenter here, ZKG,
Yeah.
and she said, but ZKG says, but a woman makes the final decision. Men make the decision not to use protection. Make that choice first, and there will be no issue. And this is listen. Let me tell you something. That statement is a common statement I hear all the time when I hear someone argue that I wanted to have sex with this woman, but I didn't want to have a baby with her. That is the most common thing I hear, not just from women, but from men, from anybody saying, well, you should have used protection. You should use. And so again, it brings back to an important factor for you as a man. If you want to begin to take a knowledge of something, that this comment right here tells you that if you want to be free and clear, you need to use protection. Or else people will have the right to say, you are the man. You are the one who can make. And again, it turns right back into this thing where, listen, some men have made the choice. They done got snip, right? They only got snip. So they don't even care about any of that. You know, so they going raw dog, super dog, everything. And then somebody saying, oh, I'm pregnant. Pregnant? You must be pregnant from somebody because it can't be from me because I already did the snip.
It must be God because it ain't.
It ain't me. So again, we have so many scenarios that we can kind of like look at and put into play. Then she also says, again, birth control is a choice. Not just a choice for the man, but also for the woman. You know, many women use birth control like a daily product because they don't want to have children or they're not interested in having children. But guess what? Sometimes people are, and this goes into what I would say again, having children has to be not just a physical thing, it has to be a mental thing. You have to be mentally prepared. You have to want to have children for the right mental reason. You don't have a child to trap somebody or stay connected to somebody. You have a child so you and them can raise that child to be a decent citizen or human being in the society, not for other things. Because a lot of times we see a lot of the kids who messed up is because they're dealing with these parent issues and things going on, and people don't even know how to really, manage it. So I just want to just keep that in mind that we're talking about things, and I want the audience to recognize nothing we're saying is the fact it's just situational. In any situation, a person can come on here, we can take 1,000 calls from 1,000 people, and every situation will be different. And we can see it one way or another based on the situations.
I mean, I believe that's kind of the point. I think it comes to everyone has an irresponsible role in that matter if you're not ready to take the responsibility of being that parent, whether it's the mother or the father. And I think that's where things start to get confusing when you start saying, well, this person should be held accountable for that, and that person should be held accountable for that if you ain't want to do it. I think both parties should be held accountable. And then I think it's different egos. So the conversation I was having with someone recently, and maybe you all touched on that, and I apologize for being late, was if a mother says the only way you're going to see your child, you got to go to court, and that dad says, well, I'm not going to court if that's what it takes for me to see my child, because now once we get the system involved, it can go many different ways. And so the conversation was said, that person is considered a deadbeat. And I said, I don't consider that person a deadbeat, because why should that person have to go to court to see their child and then leave out of court and now have to pay this fee to the mother in order to see their child, which is known as child support? So then the thing was, well, they should be wanting to pay that fee. But this person never ran from the responsibility. They was never given the opportunity to have that responsibility. And so
Leonard,
that was
we spoke about that earlier. You got it. No, go ahead, man. Go ahead, man.
So, right on point.
So So that, to me, that's why I say it's a question of both parties need to be responsible. And we all grown men, and for the ladies that's on here, you all grown. We all know who we was dealing with before we went and did the do. We know the type of people we be dealing with before we do it, and that so you know if she was for the streets and you got her pregnant, now you can't be embarrassed. And if you know this person got around, can't hold down a job, it is what it is. Those are all common factors you got to account for before you even get to the bedroom. So that's why I think it's about both parties holding responsibilities. That is it a such thing as deadbeats? I think that that's subject to opinion too, because when I walked in was on something that I agree about. Yeah, you may have a father that's providing financially, but ain't in the kid's life. Then you have another father that's in the kid's life but can't hold down a job. So who's the deadbeat in that scenario?
Mm.
It all depends. Again, great point, bro. It all depends, as Ron so eloquently said, on your situation. Because,
Right.
but I come back to the point where you shared about a father saying, "Well, if I got to go to court to be in my child's life, I don't want to do it. I ain't doing it." Right. So, at this point, I hear you. I think the lawyer in me and the father in me won't won't allow her or the court from preventing me from being involved. And I get what you're saying about paying the fee. But what I tell people, and I tell men this all the time, as much as you're paying in child support, as long as it's reasonable anyway, it's less than what you would have been paying if that child was living in your house full time. So yeah, I get it. When you're talking about you only making X amount of dollars, but they want 50% of it. How you supposed to live? And I get it. But if that child was living in your house full time, your expense would probably be more than the 50% you giving her out of your pocket to take care of it. And I tell brothers to think about this a lot of time. It's cheaper to pay the child support than it would be if that child was living in your house full time. And we like,
Well,
no, that ain't true. That ain't true. And Ron, let me finish. That ain't necessarily true. But I say, no, if you think about it, when you're talking about having to feed a child, your lights, the water, buying the food, taking them here, there, and everywhere, pampers, all the stuff that we're required to do as parents full time, it's a very costly endeavor. So, no, I'm not saying that it's okay and that the system should be set up to do that to you. Because when I hear these cases, especially with celebrity fathers or wealthy men, where the woman won't $30,000 a month for the child. I was like, for what? Those are times where I feel the system, just because it's based upon your income, abuses the system and mischaracterizes what child support should be about. And I think that's where I tend to have an issue when they want an arm and a leg, and for this one child, which is unfair from that specific situation. But when I'm talking about a father saying he doesn't want to be involved in a system, if that's the only way he's gonna see his child, I don't vibe with that. I don't
So
vibe with that. And I don't, because I understand what it means to not have your father be present and involved. Because if your father not there, no matter how great a man you end up becoming, and we could look at LeBron James and say that he's had to have other men in his life and we don't know, because this, like I said, it's LeBron James has lived the perfect life as far as the people from outside. He's never made a mistake, other than uh Miami Gate when he told he's going to South Beach. That's the only mistake he's ever made, according to the public is concerned. But as far as we know, he's been a perfect example of a father and all those things. But I'm telling people, when you don't have your father in your life, it's a major, major point. And when you as a father choose to not be present, not because you don't want to be, but because you don't want to be involved in a system that's going to tell you how and when to raise your child, I think you're doing your child a disservice. And I disagree with that part of it. And that's just me. and how I feel about being a father involved. With that being said, I'll let y'all go.
No,
Johnny,
I totally agree. I agree with that. Cause I mean, I'm a father. I definitely agree about that. The thing, well, my point of view is, I don't necessarily. It depends on the father still again with the child support, right? Because I'm not sure if you're going to be spending less or the same amount because you're still doing that child support. Then when you got your visits, you still gonna be doing extra stuff there too. You still gonna buy other stuff outside, and it's just it goes back to like what they were saying, the non-consensual choice. I think all that is the same matter because as a father, the mother can tell you you can't see your child and you got to go to court to see your child.
Because in the state of Florida, you're not the father till you go to court and tell the court tell the court you want to be a parent.
Right.
If you're not married.
If you're not married, correct.
Right. But
So,
is that right? Is that right as well?
No, but okay. Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm a past recipient of child support. Now, I was on child support. I was on child support, right? And I'm actually pro child support. You understand? So people like I said. So let me be very clear. When I got on child. Guess what? And I'm an engaged and active father. I was on child support for one of my children, but only one, and I got 4, but only one. And the one I was on child support for was the one I was most engaged with, right? Most engaged with. And so with time and maturity, because when I went there, when I had my first child, I was ignorant when I went to child support court. You don't know
your money's worth. You was getting, you figure you spending it, you might as well get the time.
Right. By the time God blessed me to get on child support, then I gained a better understanding of it. I understood that they already had a number system in place. That's the thing that most people don't tell you. The number system is already in place, which is back to what your point, Attorney Gaspar, what you said about the basketball player.
Correct.
He can drop what he did. He hit this guy who's worth multi-millions, tens of millions of dollars, and he negotiated his child support for 18 years at a few $100,000. And I'm like, okay, now if that's for him, imagine what your child support gonna be. And so the practicality and the reality of child support, I think most time men make child support way bigger than what it is. They make it the boogeyman, and that's not true at all. And so you're probably going to walk away from the table. More than likely, you'll never, people talk about 50%, you'll never walk away. You can't even walk away, a woman only can't even walk away with 50% of your stuff in a marriage. You understand? And the only time she can walk away with 50% of your marriage is that marriage has to be very lengthy, and she have to have a significant amount of kids. But when it comes to child support, especially if you don't have no type of legal obligations, which means you guys had no legal binding when it came to you when you had that particular child, and then I'm gonna just tell you the flip side of this, Leonard. The flip side of it for me, I was paying the child support, and I was being empathetic, just like what you're saying right now, Leonard. I swear, because I thought every father was taking care of their child like me until I became a stepfather. And that's when I got the reality check. I'm like, you got to be free. And I mean, I literally helped my wife off of putting these dudes on child support. I'm talking about significant time, like 5 years. And after 5 years, I realized, like, I'll be damned, I just went through what she went through. You understand? That's when it hit me, like, so again, because we will make every man intentions our intentions. If I take care of my children, I'm pretty sure every man will take care of their child if they had the opportunity to take care of their child. Those men had the opportunity to take care of their child, and they didn't. And so we had to put them on child support. And here's the ironic part. By the time she put them on child support, we might as well have not put them on child support because the amount that they was given was so minute. If I had a cigarette habit, that's what they probably buy me a cotton every month. Yeah, I'm talking about real.
Go ahead, Rod. I know you've been itching to say something.
No. I listen. Again, I am a stark believer in child support, not just child support from the man's point of view, but child support for children in general. Because I believe that if you had a structured family, it has to be minded that depending on what the socioeconomic status of the family is that's how that child's going to be raised. Child's not going to be raised different from his socioeconomic family status.
Gotcha.
I think what I think we see a lot of is that people are willing to pay child support, right? There's some people willing to pay child support. They pay child support, and then what they have to go through in reference to even seeing their child, like how that operates. And a lot of times they're on child support not through the court. They just went through the Internal Revenue Service, right? I'm talking about the state of Florida because it's different things. And we're talking universal. It's different things, different places. But then there are also other little factors that go into play. Like, let's say a guy didn't start off with child support. Let's just say he started off with a mutual agreement with the mom, providing money and this and that, and she's saying, but this money is different. This money is clearly given to the mom for the child, whatever she wants, however, and if sometimes he might not have it, sometimes he may have it. Then we say tax season comes. Right? We just got, right now, people have just got their bills for how much tax money they got to pay and what they got to pay. As a working class person, many working class people don't have any, and many men who are caught in this situation are working class men. They don't have any tax deductions. They can't claim the child because they're not the custodian father. The mom claims the child, plus get the child support that she don't even have to mark that she's getting it, right? Because it's just free money at some point. Not free money, but it's not something that she has to not. And so you start to see men become disenchanted with child support, not because of wanting to be able to support the child, but they're seeing it becoming a manipulation on them at some point. And and then on top of that, they're then trapped into this system of no control. And again, then you don't have to have control, because if you say, hey, I'm gonna suffer for my child, then I'll suffer for my child. If I get to see him, I see him. I still support him. I still do. You can do all those things. And so I'm only presenting that to say, there again, to remind people there's so many dynamics of this that are individualized based on the dynamics of those relationships, that it is hard to say, oh, that man, he a deadbeat, or he's not a deadbeat, or he is, because you have to look at every line of what is happening, how it's happening. Imagine a man who pays child support, who is being pretty much parent alienized from his child. So his child doesn't want to see him. The child don't know why they don't want to see the father, but they don't want to see him. He paid child support, and then it's being said that, oh, you're a deadbeat because you're not seeing the child, or you're not involved in the child's life. That again, I'm coming back to mental health. I'm coming back to mental health of men and fathers. That is a double blind, sometimes a paradox that many men can't maintain and handle. Some of them are so bold, say, hey, French toast. I just start another family and be the great dad to that family. And that kid just gets left out. And that's a bad situation. But
what they say, Ron?
You have to begin the way that everybody knows French toast. That's a clean way of saying, the other word. It's a sanity thing. They want to be able to keep their sanity and be able to. And again, this is not taken to say that's everybody. These are isolated, situational situations. Those dads that Lionel talking about, there's a reason why they didn't want to pay child support. We don't know that. Some of them might have been because they just say, ain't paying no goddamn child support. Because I don't French toast with her. So I ain't doing it. Even though they see the kids. People have their reason, and it could be so many things. So
now, Ron, I have to be fair, because you were, and still in some cases are, a domestic violence counselor, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so if we don't condone because we know they see financial abuse as a form of domestic violence.
Absolutely.
So if we don't condone the financial abuse of women, then why do we have a narrative for the financial abuse of children? I'm noticing that every negotiation. because we got a narrative for it. So I'm trying to figure out. I mean, child support sounds like it becomes a financial abuse of children, whether you're getting it or not. And nobody have a voice in this. The most silent or the most victimized voice in this is that child, well, because he has no choice. And so we don't even see the financial victimization of that child because we're too busy trying to figure out who child support benefits the mother or the father with to a tug of war. And at the end of the day, the financial abuse on the child is never even acknowledged. And so that's something that's.
But I think you make a good point with that, though, Lionel. But I think in all of it, whether it's the financial abuse, the child always gets the worst of it. As I've transitioned over to the child welfare system myself, and I'm seeing some of these babies that's coming through there too, they still trying to figure out the world. And then the world will throw them another curveball. So yeah, I mean, even if the father is paying the child support and not in the family's life, it's not the dad and the mom. They got to enjoy their childhood. I mean, I know everything's up for opinion. We don't know what happened, but they got to make it to adulthood and make that decision. And they robbing their child of that. So no, I do agree. The child always takes the worst of it, regardless of what happens, because they still trying to figure it out. Which
I just have to say, gentlemen, my mind is blown. And the reason why I say that is because I am so black and white about a lot of things. And I would have never been able to see the varying situational circumstances regarding fathers, mothers, and their responsibilities. Because when we first started, you're either a deadbeat dad or not. That was my perspective. But this is wild. Just knowing the variabilities of the circumstances a gentleman could be in. And Ron, I've heard you talk about it before, but for some reason it hits a little bit more deeply this particular episode about non-consensual fatherhood. That is wild. That concept is still difficult for me to chew on. So I guess I'm thankful to hear this conversation because it has widened my perspective, and it's really going to give me more food for thought, especially because I know I can be judgmental, but it's really gonna give me pause to, if I see a gentleman in the situation, I need to ask a bunch of questions before I come to a conclusion as to this guy's approach, because my generic perspective may not even apply to this guy because of my prejudgment. So thank you guys. Very, very eye-opening.
And Tenny, you just, and this is the reason why we had this think tank, because you would feel that everybody has a comment, they already have this thing in their mind. There's a lot of people in this world who actually think just like Tenny, and have this that probably having this conversation now because they're not. This is so foreign to them, and the idea of the reality of it. Somebody like myself, Lightborn, and Jack, we've seen this stuff day to day, poppy to poppy, boopy boopy, and even my brother here, Leonard. But there's a lot of people, men and women, who like this. I ain't never even heard that. What you mean? He either takes care of his kid or he don't, and we're not even getting into the circumstance. And I think this, what Tenny said, is very important for us to begin to do. And this is not just for this topic, but for a lot of things. When you begin to start saying, hey, as a human being, why is this? Asking people certain things. People ask me all the time. Hey, how your daughter? How your daughter? How your daughter? How your daughter? And in many instances, they don't even know how that affects me, right? They don't know how it affects me to ask me how my daughter's doing. But I surely share with them is I basically don't know. I know whatever I can see and whatever I can get a glimpse of. So I don't know. I really don't know. And it hurts me not only for them to ask me, but for me to even have to be the response that I would give back. And that is something that many people will think that, oh, you know, if you're a deadbeat, if you're a deadbeat, well, you'll do something about it. Well, some things you can do something about. Some things you got to pick and choose how you handle them, because situations can easily become you being on the front of the newspaper, on the news. You know, and people don't take that in, because I remember I went to a lawyer. I'm not gonna say his name because it wasn't on the greatest terms of, and this is what ultimately got me to a place. He told me, just go to the house, get your child, because you're the father and you can do it. And I was like, if I wasn't already working in this field and already knew what to do, I would have probably been that person y'all seen on, and it could have ruined my whatever I had going on, because we sometimes keep forgetting that if you already don't have a good relationship with somebody, even though you might have had a really good sexual relationship with them, you don't have a personal relationship with them anymore. And maybe if you were still having a sexual relationship with them, maybe you could have a personal relationship with them or do certain things. But if you're not able to do that, you have to be careful, because there is dangers for you. Now, if you don't care, you'll crash out. You know, that's what we're seeing a lot of. People who don't care and then becoming crash out. And then we're saying, look at this horrible man. Look what he did. Oh, I can't believe he did this. But we are not knowing the inner workings of what made him get to that point. Or what
Ron,
made him.
he probably was an accident turn. He wasn't. Ron, he wasn't.
No.
You can't get family advice on accident.
No. Listen. I'm gonna tell you what's so funny. Actually, he's a hell of a good criminal attorney, and I felt like he almost wanted me to go there
as a client.
I felt like he wanted me to work backwards. He would have did a better case for me if I already was already jammed up. If I had to go to jail, he could get on it. He could make everything happen and things would work. But I wasn't interested in that.
Just so y'all clear, it was not Johnny Gaspard that advised Brother Ron to do that.
I said it wasn't Johnny Gaspard. I said the person would remain unnamed. Johnny Gaspard wouldn't be on the Fatherhood Think Tank giving that kind of advice. If you would think that Johnny Gaspard would be on here giving that kind of advice, you there's a perfect example of not understanding how we operate. He would not give that kind of advice. And you haven't watched our show one time, because he gives very good sound family advice for fathers and for families and for women.
Yes, no doubt. Listen, I definitely understand, and I love Titty's perspective, and I thank you for kind of bringing us all back to the understanding, Brother Titty, that at the end of the day, different people have different situations, and your personal perspective, even me being as passionate about my feeling about being a father, and you telling me you don't want to pursue it. As Titty said that, and Ron just shared his experience, I said, well, what if the guy can't afford to go to court, Johnny? Then what?
Yes.
If he doesn't have the financial ability and or the wherewithal to go through that process, then what? Part of me didn't even think about that, because my thing is, hey, I guess the lawyer, he said, well, you can just go to court, because I know I can file that. But yeah, because I'm the lawyer, so I know that. But
it's funny you said that. I have actually a story about that. A friend of mine, he got 50-50 custody, no child support.
You know what? Hold on, brother. He what? You're 50-50 what?
50-50 custody and no child support.
What? Okay, what do you mean 50-50 custody?
50-50 custody of his child.
Oh, so 50-50 custody. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I was mishearing you. I was mishearing you.
But you know what he always say? That 50-50 custody cost me $30,000. And he always say those trips that I would take on that ended our relationship is what I used to get that 50-50 custody.
I hear
And
that.
I think you break a good point to that too. That's another deterrent for some fathers, that they don't know if they can. And there's a distrust in the legal system too.
System, yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
They,
I
Leonard,
agree.
Listen,
before you guys
I
got
can
on
tell
here,
you, I
no, I was going to tell them before they got on here. We when we approach with that deadbeat dad situation, I think we have a responsibility to actually check certain things, and those are teachable moments. When you hear it, like when you, especially when you hear ignorant terminology, you have an obligation to teach society different ways to see things. And so we spoke about that earlier. Like, no, what you see as deadbeat can actually be disenfranchisement. And what Johnny just explained, I'm like, that's not a deadbeat, that's disenfranchisement, because number one, the family court is levied against the father's right to actually be a parent, even though they would try to make him financially responsible as a parent. And so when you have that unequal balance, then that's what disenfranchisement comes in, and particularly when you're an African American father, because and we don't even want to talk about the history of families being separated in this country just for financial gain, the financial gain of this this country, and that's another talk. But yeah, there's a lot of disenfranchisement, but I think a lot of times we miss those teachable moments because we what they call it, we get gaslit, and when we gaslit, we run out of gas. And so we got to see every moment as a teachable moment, especially in these type of conversations like this.
Hold on, Ron. We had two good Gen Z terms used. One by Ron, crash out, and now one by Lightberg, gaslit. To those of you who may not know what those phrases means, who are listening, crash out means you just went crazy, just like what it means. You crashed out, you lost it, lost control, and you crashed. And gaslit means somebody simply telling you a bunch of stuff to make you seem like they understand what you're saying, but they really don't care and really don't understand your point of view. So just for those who may be listening, but go ahead, brother.
Yep.
Rob,
I just want to put kind of put this in a good perspective for people, because the court system, when we start talking about the court system, I have worked with multiple fathers who have spent the money, and they have spent their money. I mean, I remember the guy initially when he had a baby. You have to understand the momentous challenge it is, and how people begin to look at it. How do people handle their regular bills, right? And I look at it like this: they pay the bill they have to pay, right? If you're working check to check, day to day, you pay the bill you have to pay. Going to court to fight for your child is a luxury bill. It's not a bill you have to pay. It's not one that like if you're in jail, prison, if you're locked up and you want to get out, that's a bill that you're going to try to pay. But for your child, it's not going to happen. And the other end of it that men begin to look at, I think, and feel disenfranchised for, is that they have to go get a lawyer. They have to get money. And then when they look on the other side, the Internal Revenue Service is on one side with the mother, and the mother doesn't have to get no lawyer. She doesn't pay anything. She can just come and say, I have the cards, and you want something from these cards. And here's the Internal Revenue being my attorney, even though they're not supposed to be, but being my attorney to say, these are the things you need to do and how you operate. And again, you now are not working against another lawyer. You're working against a major system who wants to retain the money. They want the money for the money that the mother went and got for Medicaid and all these social services, money things that she got for your child that you could have paid. Here's the other part that can really send a man to the moon. Alice can send you to the moon when you could have paid those things, but the negotiation and the cooperation wasn't there. You could have put the child on my insurance. I got good insurance. Hell, you could have put yourself on my insurance. But you didn't want that. That's not the negotiation. And that is where you see a lot. And I'm speaking about a specific type of men in this situation, right? Specific. These are men who are non-custodial. They're more likely men who are more likely non-consensual fathers And there are men who have a value of not leaving a child to be alone because they had their own experience of being a lone child themselves. These are some things you forget that plays on. So many men will want to be better. They want to be better than their dad. They want to be better than the experience they came from, but they could never imagine what they're experiencing to do that. You know, if they could, they'd never imagine that this would be the outcome of that. And again, this is not one-sided, because they also should have been better to pick who they picked to do these things with. I'm not gonna give. I myself can clearly say without a doubt is I can say whatever I want on the other end of this, but it is my fault that this happened the way it happened, because I could have said no. I could have not been hypersexual. I could have did a lot of things, but I didn't. And this was the end result. I could have been a dick. I mean, I could have just been a dick. Not a nice guy, not a good prospect to have a kid with. Not any of those things. I could have just been on the way being, as I've been told recently, I could just be a scumbag, a bum who never had my life together. I could be those things. And maybe I would not even I wouldn't have a baby. I wouldn't have never had a baby. Because I'm sure the majority of intelligent women are not going out here having a baby with a scumbag, bum.
You would be surprised.
I was gonna get there, Johnny, but go
ahead. Ron, they don't want the nice guy to have because the nice guy is too, he's too soft. He ain't man enough. So the nice guy ain't gonna even get to the draws. And I'm just being real with you. The dude who would be the good father ain't gonna even get to the draws most of the time. And when they have those, so yeah, a lot of them are with having these children with guys who are scumbags, who are not good, who don't care, who are bums. And then they get mad and call those dudes what we talking about here? Deadbeat dads, and then start to refer them to all men who are going through whatever the situation is. So I don't think it would have ultimately, you accepting what it being accountable is a big thing, a big part of your dealing with the situation. And I get that tremendously, my brother. And there's nothing that you could say, like you said, that could change that particular topic. But I think at the end of the day, the choice that the woman has made to alienate the child, for lack of a better term, from the father from the beginning, because oftentimes for a child to then not want to communicate with a father, it had to be something from the other parent that led that child to feel like not wanting to. Because I have known kids, when I tell you they don't hear from they want to know who dad is, they want to talk to him no matter how horrible or how distant he's been. They just want to talk to their dad because, ultimately what they want to find out, why you didn't want to be with me, why you didn't want to be around me. And that's the question that a lot of kids are asking when it doesn't have anything to do with them, because the parent doesn't want to be there. But because of the alienation by the other parent, the child believes this is a situation. So again, we've had the topic tonight, deadbeat dad. Ron, you've done it.
Let me just recognize this last message that's here, because I think it is a very powerful message being said. The brother here, not user, I gotta really get the name, just user. It's tough when I hear my homies feel so demoralized by the court system. They just gave up, and then he follows up and by saying,
he said, and I could be wrong, but I still look at
and I right.
Yeah, go ahead.
I could be wrong. Go ahead. Go ahead, Lightborn. I probably can't see it. I'm over here running the channel.
He said, and I can be. He said, I can be wrong, but I still look at them with judgment. Like, damn, you quit on your child.
That's what I was saying earlier.
Right.
And I get it though. Like I said, I got a better perspective. Like, okay, Johnny, well, maybe he can't afford a lawyer. You the lawyer, so you ain't got to hire nobody to go there.
I think that I love this, brother. Thank you for that statement, brother. And I think this is the crux of tonight. I mean, this was a great statement to sum up tonight because it is really a very subjective thing that becomes constructual, and it becomes how other people look at you, right? And you don't think about this, but some people have given up, and some fathers have given up not because they wanted to, because they just had to. And again, that's why we have always said here at the Fatherhood Think Tank, we said in mentor program, everything we said, that fatherhood is not just a birth to 18 thing. It's a lifetime thing. If anybody can tell us that, a big man up here at the top, Ed can tell you that fatherhood goes all the way to them being fathers themselves and becoming a grandfather and becoming a great grandfather. Fatherhood continues. So what I say to the brothers, yes, you may not be able to focus it now. You may not be able to deal with it now, but you be patient. You keep yourself in a mindful of that's my child, and I want to have a relationship with them, even if it's as an adult. Because an adult, from 18 to 28, kids need more parenting than they really need from 0 to 18. And I'm just keeping it real. If they're going to have some type of real life that's going to be suitable, because a lot of people give up on their kids at 18, and the kids go straight down the crapper, because they really need the guidance from when they can really move and manage the 0 to 18. We have full control over what they do and how they do it, where they do it. So if they failing, it's because we controlling them. It's when they get 18 when they can control themselves, into 28 when they really looking into what my life going to be, how I'm going to be, who's guiding me, who's giving me the advice, who's giving me wisdom. And a large part of some of these kids just need to be guided by the people who know them the best, and no one knows them better than their parents, because they have the same gene, the same nature. Even if they don't have the same nurture, they have the same nature. And so I leave that there for the night. Again, man, this was a fantastic conversation. I'll say that all the people that joined us tonight, man, definitely thank you for joining us. I know that we had a user, we had Rob in the hood.
We had Zeke,
Juana Allen, ZTG, William Barnes. Let me see what else was in there. And some Rebuilt TV 16. All the people who joined us tonight, man, he made a conversation. The guys that was on earlier, Marcus, I seen Chuck coming on. He probably was listening in the background. Who else? Did I miss anybody, Lightborn, that came on here? That was on the platform that might have got kicked off. I think that was the two people we had.
Yeah, so far.
Yeah, so that means tonight was really good. I want to thank people for joining us. And I hope you found this conversation to be worthwhile, because I'm sure it was definitely worthwhile for us as a team. Let me just go through and just thank our sponsor before we get up out of here tonight. We want to thank our platinum diamond sponsor.
Platinum and
I
diamond.
want to thank our diamond, platinum, gold, and silver sponsor, all wrapped up in one. Brother Gaspar, JAG attorney at law, Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County. Definitely want to thank him for being here tonight and sponsoring Fatherhood Think Tank as always. It's a great opportunity to have him here when he's in the room, because he really gives us that advice. But if you're trying to get in touch with him, and he's not that attorney, he gave me that horrible new information. So I'm sure he got great information for you. If you're trying to get some cases done. JAG attorney at law, Johnny A. Gaspar Esquire. You reach him at Gaspar at jag1law.com. That's 305-827-8087. Or hit up his website if you're trying to check out what kind of law he practices, what he's doing over there at www.jag1law.com. I want to thank you for being that sponsor. Our next sponsor of the Fatherhood Think Tank is the Zeta Chi chapter of Omega Psi Phi down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The Fort Lauderdale Bros been a long sponsor of the Fatherhood Think Tank. We also want to thank our international sponsors, the Zeta Xi Nu chapter of Omega Psi Phi in Nigeria, in Lagos, Nigeria. Definitely has a big part supporting and sending out praise. And then our other partner, Omega Psi Phi chapter of Omega Lambda in the city of Philadelphia, the Philly Qs, who also support the Fatherhood Think Tank. They support it all through their sponsors of their Fatherhood Initiative programs. And we're very appreciative of their support of the Fatherhood Think Tank in giving us a national and international audience here at the Fatherhood Think Tank. And last but not least, if you're not doing anything, Thursdays at 7 o'clock, please join myself and my two lovely co-hosts at the Healthy Black Marriage and Family Podcast on either Facebook or on the YouTube page of the Mentor Educator Therapist page, and we're having an interesting dialogue. We're going to be going into part 2 of the miseducation of dating for the Black woman. So some of what we talked about here tonight goes into some of this, what we're talking about here with women sometimes maybe who they end up dating ends up picking up the deadbeats, as they would call, who's not really ready for that kind of relationship. So with that being said, again, I want to thank everybody, and just want to just say how rewarding it is to have a moment to be with these guys. It made every bit of, and I'll say this. Sometimes, Michelle Obama says, when they go low, you go high, right? Some people say, if you go low, I'm going lower, right? I want us to hear at the Fatherhood Think Tank to look at this. When people go low, we try to understand and discuss it. And that's what my platform. I had some things happen, some attacks on the sites and different things. And instead of responding to it, I said, hey, I'll just put it on the show, and let's not just help me, but let's help other people and the people who wanted to make these whatever, will make their self popular or get some likes. Also help them understand what they may not understand about the Fatherhood Think Tank and why it's here and what we do on it and how it operates. I don't need you to tell me about my life. I already know it. I know how it's operating. But I'll never let anything affect what I'm doing. And I would never be a person, and I'll say this very clear, I would never be a hypocrite. I wouldn't come on here telling people to do one thing that I'm not doing. What I am doing is telling people to do what I didn't do, so they can do what I didn't do. Do these things that I didn't do, so you don't end up like me. With that being said, fathers, thank you for indulging me and letting me be a part of this wonderful group of fathers, being a co-creator of the Fatherhood Think Tank. And repeat after me. I am a man of honor.
I am
a man of honor.
I am a man of courage.
I am a man of courage.
I am a man of respect.
I am a man of respect.
Fathers, I say that I am
I am.
I say that you are.
You are.
I say that we are.
We are.
Championship
Father.
We are
Championship
championship
fathers.
fathers. We're holding our children on our arms and our families on our back and trying to educate every father we can from fathers, for fathers, about fathers. Thank you for joining us tonight. We will see you here again next week at the Fatherhood Think Tank with another interesting conversation. I'll say this: if you have topics that you would like us to talk about, hey, just drop me something in Facebook, drop me something on Instagram, drop me something on any way that you think I might get it. I'll look at it, and hey, we can make that happen, because I think that the people know what they want to hear and what they want to talk about. So we want to welcome that, and thank you guys again for having faith in me to curate this platform for us as fathers, and doing a good job. Thank you, everybody.
Great job, Ron. Brothers, y'all have a great evening. Thank y'all very much.
Have a blessed weekend, fam.
Yes.